and it was definitely a shock to me because I thought I did really well in that exam. So after that exam, I was really deep in life, and one of the great pieces of advice that I got from a friend of mine who was in 50 at that time was basically that I should be doing daily practice with PassMed, and not just any daily practice, but I should be setting a target of at least 100 questions a day. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Fajiro, and I wanted to come on here for a quick video. The best advice that I received that helped me to pass my medical school finals. So this video is going to be short, very rapid, very quick fire, but I wanted to come here and give you guys some amazing tips that really helped and aided the process. We're going to get straight into the video. The first tip that I ever received was after I actually failed my January mock. It wasn't really a mock, it was more like a summative paper, but anyway, I failed it, and it was supposed to give us kind of a predictor or a taster of the questions that we were going to get in June. And it was definitely a shock to me because I thought I did really well in that exam. So after that exam, I was really deep in life, and one of the great pieces of advice that I got from a friend of mine who was in 50 at that time was basically that I should be doing daily practice with PassMed, and not just any daily practice, but I should be setting a target of at least 100 questions a day. Now, I knew there were some people who were actually doing something similar in our year group. They were doing around 200 questions a day. So I think because I was hearing people were doing something to the extremes, that I was kind of already put off from daily practice. But actually her setting the bar quite high, but not actually their level of high, made it seem like it was something that was quite achievable for me to do. And she was like, you were in quite a good place to start, you know, doing this practice if you wanted to see changes by the time you did your exam in June. So I started that daily practice of 100 questions, and guys, let me tell you, it was tough because there were times I'll be out and I'll be having this niggling feeling at the back of my head that I need to go home because I hadn't done my 100 questions. Now, there's one thing that actually helped me to maintain this streak, and it was actually having a visual display of my 100 question streak. Now, I don't know if you guys have read Atomic Habits, but the author James Clear literally had a chapter of his book that was kind of dedicated to something that would help you visually see a habit being developed. And I think this was one of the things that really put me in a better place for me to actually manage doing this all the way from March/April to June. So I was able to maintain this habit because I had a calendar above my desk in uni that I would actually take a marker pen and cross out every single day that I did my 100 questions. And the days that I wasn't able to do quite 100 questions, I would do 50 questions, and instead of doing a cross, I would do a single stroke, so a single line. And that would signify to me that I hadn't quite achieved my target for that day. But it was actually a visual representation to me that I was actually committing to the goal of doing 100 questions a day. And let me tell you, it was hard, it was grilling, it was long sometimes, but it was definitely worth it, having seen my results and being able to get that reassurance that I was actually going to pass finals. So I would definitely recommend that being the first thing that you guys do, is make sure that you develop a streak of answering daily questions, regardless of whether you're not using PassMed, whether it's maybe PassTest or QuizMed or whatever app you're trying to use. Make sure you develop a streak for doing that, and make it visual, make it something that you feel accomplishment by doing it, because you're able to do something, you're able to have a little action that signifies that you've accomplished something with that target daily. So that's my very first tip. Second piece of advice I would like to give you guys is not actually something that I received, but it's something that I figured out when I started doing my daily streak of PassMed questions, was to make sure that I was doing those questions timed. Now, a lot of people, you know, have a bit of an iffy bother with the timed section of questions of PassMed because it doesn't allow them to review the questions, and sometimes it can be quite overwhelming to review all the questions at once instead of doing it gradually. But the only way I was able to do my 100 questions is if I was able to do it timed. If I was able to do it, you know, in a 90-minute section, rather than, you know, trying to do every single thing and review it every single question at a time. So I would recommend that, as a tie on to the very first piece of advice, is that you do timed practice, and making sure that your timed practice is what you are doing in your streaks, you know, in your question streak. That is actually what you are trying wanting to do is making sure you're developing a habit of doing those questions on time. So I have extra time when I do exams, but I found out that I actually didn't need it as much because I'd gone through the process of going through exams with, you know, the time that everyone else got, and actually that really helped me to fine-tune the areas that I was messing up on, the areas that required me to think a little bit deeper in. I was able to do that in a lot less time, and that really helped me when I was actually doing my exams. So my first two would be definitely develop a streak of daily practice with questions, and two, try as hard as possible and make these timed questions. I'm going to say 4 pieces of advice. So my third thing would be actually how you review your questions, and make sure that once you're going through your questions, you go through it in a systematic way that allows you to learn better. So when I was going through my 100 questions timed practice, I would make sure that I would be breaking it down via the topics that they list. So the categories, the modules, whatever you want to call it, that they list out on PassMed. For example, cardiology, surgery, respiratory medicine, palliative medicine, oncology. So I would look through each of those categories and tick that I only wanted to see the questions that came up from those categories. So if I did 100 questions in total and I got 20 questions out of 30 questions in, you know, the cardiology section wrong, then I would know that that would be my weak point. And so I would definitely do practice that was tailored just around cardiology questions. So I would go to the main question bank, and instead of doing a timed test that was just based on that, I would just go through, like, say 100 questions during that day would be just based on cardiology, the topic, and not actually a general overview of all of the categories in PassMed. So this is actually what enabled me to hone in on topics that I was doing really, really horribly in, especially when it came to subjects that were very complex, such as neurology, and all the different types of strokes. I remember going through a timed test and I was like, looking at my neurology section, and I was so unhappy with it because I literally was failing 90% of the questions. So I did a whole 2 or 3 days that was literally based on learning, making notes, and just doing questions that were neurology based. And at the end of that period, I saw a tremendous difference in my results when I was doing timed practice, because that section was probably my best section, and it reflected in the exams as well. So when you are doing questions, you can do timed questions of all categories, but when you're reviewing them, make a conscious note to review them by categories, because that will tell you which areas in your studying you're actually falling short of. And these are easy remedies. You can spend a whole day dedicated to psychiatry questions, a whole day dedicated to women's health questions, a whole day dedicated to questions of the category that you're dropping marks in, and you can really bring those marks up, and that will really affect your overall percentage for the better. So that is my third tip. And my fourth and final tip is something that I started this year thinking I will not need, which is my own notes. And I remember starting this year, my fifth year friends were like, no, we're not going to give you our notes, because I was asking them for their notes, and they were like, no, we're not going to give them to you because you need to make your own. You learn so much better when you have your own notes. And I was like, no guys, please don't do this to me, I need your help. And they were completely right. So I would absolutely recommend making your own database of notes. I'm going to show you how I created mine on Notion, which is the app that saved my ass in fourth year. But I was able to create sections based on the categories within PassMed. Some of the categories that we didn't actually get a lot of teaching on, I was able to create, categories based on the PassMed textbook and other things that I was revising and learning from, and put them into my own bank of notes. And I was doing it in a way that I was able to create toggle lists, and that was what I was using to test myself when I would fail a specific topic in neurology or cardiology or respiratory medicine. I'd come back to my Notion, update my notes, and then, retest myself. And a little add-on to this, or part B of creating your own bank of notes, is making sure that you allow other people in your life to help you out with testing yourself on notes. So I'm a very vocal learner. I like to say things a lot, but also another thing to that is also allowing other people to help you revise. So if people are testing you, they can actually just pick up up your question bank from Notion and actually be able to just test you based on your bank of notes from the Notion app or from whatever app that you're using. They can just ask you questions if you're creating it in a manner that is similar to flashcards without the labor of actually creating flashcards. So I found that super helpful, was actually involving people, asking people to test me, asking, you know, myself to test myself and making sure that it was a daily practice of me going over my notes. If I had not done well in a specific category, was making sure I went over it. I think I had a goal of going through all the categories up to 5 times, you know, like reading my notes, testing myself and getting the questions correct up to 5 times before the exams. I think I did it like 1.5 times for each block, but setting that target was really helpful because I was able to actually really consolidate all the things that I was learning from just questions with my actual notes. And so I hope those 4 tips have helped you. If they have, and if you have any other questions, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions. 4th year is tough, I can't lie to you. Yeah, God is so good for getting me through that year. It was definitely the toughest period of medical school that I've ever gone through. It required such strength and stamina that I didn't even have. It was definitely something that I can just attribute to the grace of God, and through prayer and through people interceding for me, and my friends always checking in on me and asking, how are you doing, and is there anything that we can help with. I lived with a great group of people. My flatmates were amazing during the year, and always revising with me and just helping me out with anything that I actually needed help with. So if there's anything that you guys need to have up this year, especially if you're watching this at the start of 4th year, halfway through 4th year, wherever you are, whenever you do finals, you need to make sure that, one, you've got a great support network and you're not afraid to ask for help, but also that your prayer life, you're connecting to God, you're making sure that your spirituality is on point, because you will need to draw from a strength that is greater than you. And my strength is from God. And I made sure that I was on my knees asking him for help daily because I needed it. So I would love to encourage you guys in saying that you can do it. You can definitely pass your finals exams, even if you failed any exam prior. I hope this encourages you guys. You guys have got this. You're gonna win. You're gonna be successful. And I'm rooting for you. I'm absolutely rooting for you. If you need any more help, any more tips, drop them down in the comment section below. I'd love to create more videos that are tailored to you guys. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye.